Welcome back, everybody, to our continuing coverage here at the MUFON Conference 2022 in Denver, Colorado. We have with us Lynne Kitei, is that correct?
Kitei. E and a tie.
Okay, Kitei. She is the author of Phoenix Lights, also the producer and writer-director of the Phoenix Lights documentary. We had a chance to view that last night. That was an incredible show.
Oh, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Tell us a little bit about your experience with the Phoenix Lights, because you were one of the people who actively had footage of the lights before it became known as the Phoenix Lights, because not a lot of people know that there were sightings before the actual mass sighting. So tell us a little bit about your history and how you came to be involved with this.
Well, kind of ironic. I'm a medical doctor.
Mm-hmm.
I have dedicated my life's work to community education of vital health issues. My AIDS and teen pregnancy and substance abuse prevention education programs have been distributed worldwide by Discovery Education.
Wow.
And I actually started doing health tips in '76. It was called the Woman Pioneer of Medical Communications by TV Guide at the time. And syndication grew from that, in Philadelphia, that was showing at CBS in Phoenix when we moved there in 1980, ironically enough. And then from there, I actually did health reporting for NBC locally in Phoenix, and then USA Cable.
Okay.
A show called The American Homemaker with Vicki Lawrence was the host. Yes.
Wow.
So by 85, I was seeing kids in the practice, because my specialty also was adolescent medicine, that were drowning in substance abuse and wanted to do something really productive to wake them up to the reality of substance abuse, because these were good kids that came from good families, but the peer pressure and just the ignorance of where it could lead was so prominent. I really wanted to do something special for them, especially in the classroom, because a one-shot deal wasn't going to reach them.
Yeah.
But in the classroom, perhaps they would really learn and wake up. So I took kids that had been there and experts in the field, and then brought in my other hat, which since I was 8 years old, I was in professional musical theater.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I have a 3-octave voice.
Oh, wow.
College or a soprano, and kind of combined that too, and had celebrities, because I wanted to hit the kids with everything, to give them poignant messages. So hopefully something would get through. And we were fortunate enough to have Magic Johnson, Paul Abdul, the original cast from Beverly Hills, 90210. I mean, we had an incredible milieu of wonderful celebrities that really were wonderful in and of themselves. And once I did the substance abuse program, I was asked to do other topics, and ended up to form a company in '85 called Health Education Learning Programs. And I bring that up because I've done everything at that point, from researching, writing, going out in the field and shooting, directing the shoot, going back and editing. And in '76, it was little teeny-weeny films.
Oh, yeah. 16 millimeter, all that kind of fun stuff.
Right. So, by then I was pretty educated on that end of it. And then, without any interest or knowledge in the topic at all, in '95, both my husband, who's also a physician, healthy skeptic, had no interest or knowledge in the topic, actually witnessed right outside our bedroom window, because we're pretty high on a mountain in Paradise Valley that overlooks what they call the Valley of the Sun.
Okay.
And in the distance, we see the airport. We also see South Mountain and the Estrella Mountain Range, a little distance back from that, and there's a story to tell about that.
Okay.
And so we see planes and helicopters coming in and out of Sky Harbor. We're very familiar with house lights and street lights and all that.
Sure.
And one wall of our bedroom is a window. So we get to enjoy this panoramic view when we're in our bedroom. And it happened to be, and I don't believe in coincidence anymore, because there are just so many connected with the Phoenix Lights alone.
Yeah.
It happened to be my birthday, February 6th.
Oh, wow.
And I was taking a leisurely bath in another room, and my husband was standing at that window talking to my mother-in-law from Philadelphia, where I was born and raised, to wish me a happy birthday. And he was on several state and medical boards at the time. Nothing ever ruffled his feathers. And suddenly he says, "Oh my God, what the hell is that? Get over here quick." And I grab a towel, because he never sounds alarmed like that.
Yeah.
I grabbed a towel, wringing wet. And both of us standing at that window, because we're pretty high on a mountain there, a little below us, and we're nestled in a mountain range, and it's gated. So there is no way it was military.
Yeah.
And here there were 3 amber orbs, one on top and 2 closely aligned underneath, a little below us. I immediately looked underneath to see if somebody was creating this site. And it was literally impossible for anybody to be there, because it's very treacherous, cacti and all that landscape, but also it's gated. So nobody should be there, but it was pitch black. And I wanted to run and get my video camera, okay?
Yeah.
But it was downstairs, and you'll hear a lot of other people that have paranormal experiences like this say the same thing. They don't move.
Yeah.
I wanted to take everything in mentally. And it's really important. I advise people to have those mental moments once in a while to really appreciate everything that's happening at that moment.
You know, it's interesting that you say that, because one of the things we talk about regularly is the reason that you don't see a lot of really clear images of UFOs, Bigfoot, anything like that is, yes, you are literally caught in the middle of an adrenalized moment. Do you have the presence of mind as a camera person to hold your body still, breathe from your belly, not your lungs, so your camera doesn't move up and down? Like, there's a lot of things like that that are rote training for me as a camera person that are not for the average person. So,
but
it's
even
interesting
just
that you
taking
mentioned
that moment and mentally having that picture in your mind, which I looked at the size, the color, the shape. They were about 3 to 6 feet each, depending on how close they were. And they were pretty close. Okay, they were just yards away.
Wow.
And I noticed immediately they were oval shape. And I called them an orb because the light did not extend outside the edge. It was self-contained. Every other light out there glared.
Yeah.
House lights, street lights, whatever.
Has the flare and twinkle to it.
Did not.
Wow.
These were very mesmerizing, very smooth. And also it's interesting that in retrospect, the oval shape, and I really noted that, okay, is the same shape that the Nimitz Navy pilots describe their sightings. I don't know if it's the same phenomena, but nonetheless, it was oval shape.
Interesting.
And I thought to myself, geez, if I don't get a picture of this, no one's going to believe it. And I collect sunsets. Okay, we have gorgeous sunsets in Arizona. I have like 6 or 7 books of them. And I have a camera, a cheap Instamatic camera in the closet. And I said to my husband, nobody's going to believe this if I don't get a picture of it. And I go running to the closet to grab my camera. He calls me back, says, get over here quick. One of them is disappearing. And as we both stood there, and I always go back to this sighting in 95, February 6, 95. The top orb, without budging from the 2 that were very closely aligned underneath, it was 3 separate objects, starts to shrink very, very slowly, mechanically, as if there was an intelligent presence behind it. It's very difficult to describe in logical terms, but nonetheless, I'm watching this thing. It's smaller and smaller. Now, again, no interest or knowledge. We had 2 young kids at the time, boys.
Yeah.
The only things we ever watched connected with this topic were the original Star Trek series because of the beautiful messages.
Sure.
And E.T. and Close Encounters, obviously. Yeah. And the first thought that came in my mind as the top orb is shrinking, almost like a dimmer switch. I mean, it's difficult to describe, but the first thought was the Klingon cloaking device, which actually wavers before it cloaks and disappears. These did not.
Wow.
This just was getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Totally unnatural. Okay.
Wow.
Until it was pea size and then disappeared. But it felt like it was still there, even though it disappeared from sight. Where did it go? Okay, did it cloak? Did it go another dimension? I don't know. At the time, I quickly got on the balcony. There's a sliding glass doors perpendicular to that big window. I get out on the balcony. I got a shot of the 2 lower orbs and immediately noticed an eerie silence as if time had stopped. It was just bizarre. And going through my mind as intently as I was watching these 2 lower orbs, And I didn't share this with the soul till after the mass sighting 2 years later. But it actually felt like something was staring back at me.
Wow.
And going through my mind, I was thinking, who are you? What are you? Do you know that I'm here? I'd love to meet you. The next thing I remember, the left bottom orb started to shrink, just like the top one did. And something told me to shoot a picture, and I quickly shot a picture of that. This is 35 millimeter. Okay.
Yeah.
That was the only one that turned out at the time on the strip. Okay. It's in the negative. It cannot be denied or explained to this day. But I caught one half disappeared and one still there. But I didn't know what to do with it. I knew no one who was into the topic.
Yeah.
I just wondered for 2 years what this advanced technology was doing right outside our bedroom window. 2 months before the mass sighting, this is 2 years later, January of 97, lying in bed, I notice 3 huge amber orbs at a distance now in a line formation. And I'm thinking to myself, well, they're amber. They're in an equidistant line formation, hovering for minutes. And I watched each one implode, shrink, it seemed, from right to left. Gone.
Man.
Okay, mentioned it to my husband. He would joke about it. He really didn't want to talk about it, which is interesting. He was inside, I was outside in that close sighting in 95, which there's a little story behind that I will get to if we have time.
Okay.
But he said, do I still have to go to work tomorrow? When I told him about it, right? And that night, he went to a medical board meeting. About 8 o'clock, I go upstairs to the bedroom, and I notice the same 3 orbs are now at a distance in front of South Mountain, which is just behind the airport.
Mm.
And I thought, okay, enough. I'm getting my video camera. And I run downstairs, get my video camera. Got about 18 seconds worth, the battery goes dead. And it was charged.
It's about average for a video camera back then.
Well, yeah, no, it was charged. Okay, so I thought, oh, geez. So I go inside, I plug it in, go outside, they're gone. About a half hour later, my husband comes up the drive, and we're pretty high up there. And I go outside. I said, honey, remember I told you about the 3 amber orbs in an equidistant line last night? Well, about a half an hour ago, they were right in front of South Mountain. And as I'm pointing like this, they reappear in the same spot.
Wow.
Whoa, I got to get a picture of this, right? And again, I don't believe in coincidence. In video, it doesn't do the lights justice. They're much smaller, they're white, they flicker, even though for the trained eye, the formations are very compelling.
Yeah.
But on 35 millimeter, they're amber and they're in the negative. Okay.
Yeah.
So I run and get my camera, get out on the balcony just as I'm ready to shoot the 3. And for anybody out there that is near a computer, if they want to go to the Phoenix Lights Network website, go to the photo page. And by the way, there's so much to explore and consider there alone. But if they go to the photo page, they'll see the topography in the first picture, and then they'll see these 95 pictures. But at any rate, and the 97 pictures, because I get out on the balcony to shoot the 3, and suddenly 6 lights across pop up over the 3, massive span. It was so unnerving not having an explanation for 95.
Sure.
That going through, first of all, I started to shake. And the first picture is wavy. That's why.
Yeah.
Okay. And going through my mind is, oh my goodness, this is a mothership or a fleet or whatever. I mean, it was just massive across. Nothing you've ever seen in your life. But I kept my wits about me, thank goodness, and I kept clicking away. And luckily I did, because the second picture shows 5 lights, like a V, with 2 underneath. Interestingly, 2 months later, during the mass sighting, thousands of people would describe what they saw as 5 lights in a V with 2 trailing lights.
Yeah.
This was 2 months before the mass sighting. Okay. Yeah. So as I'm shooting, it seemed that the top formation, which was over a mile wide, was turning into a V as the bottom 3 lights were disappearing. Ran inside as the last one was disappearing, called the Arizona Republic and said, you got to get out there quick. There's some strange lights in front of South Mountain. Get somebody to take a picture of it and tell me what it is, right? Yeah. I'm a healthy skeptic, okay? But I was saying something so unusual. By the time I finished my sentence, they were gone. Did not sleep well that night. The next morning, I got up. I figured, hey, there's got to be a logical explanation, right? I'll just call around. Somebody's got to know what they were.
Yeah.
Call the Arizona Republic again. I said, did anybody call last night to report strange lights in front of South Mountain? The lady gets off. She gets right back on. She said, nope, nobody called. Well, I know I called.
Yeah.
So I said, we did see, my husband and I both saw unusual lights, and I get pictures of it. Something was there. Who can I contact? She says, well, sometimes they send experimental maneuvers off from Luke Air Force Base, which isn't too far from Phoenix. Maybe that was it. Made sense. Call Luke Air Force Base. Try to be professional. My husband and I are both physicians. We live mountainside in Paradise Valley, and we saw some strange lights in front of South Mountain. Would you know what they might have been? And from the get-go, she had an attitude. She said, well, they didn't come into Luke Air Force Base, and they didn't come out from here, so we had nothing to do with them. Okay.
All right.
How can I find out what they might have been? Any suggestions? She said, well, you said they were in front of South Mountain. Maybe they saw something at the airport, which is just right in front of South Mountain. Okay, now it was a mission.
Yeah.
Okay, I had to find out what's going on. So I called the FAA, told her the same thing, and she was really nice. And she said, maybe there's air traffic controllers that saw something last night. Let me inquire. I said, great. Left me hanging forever. Gets back on. She says, actually, there was a group of air traffic controllers the night before that did see some strange lights over Class B restricted airspace.
Wow.
There's a 30-mile radius around the center of the airport. Anybody that goes in, anything that goes into that area, especially 1,000 feet altitude that these were, must call into the tower.
That's right.
And no one did. I find out because I said to her, well, can I speak to one of them? And she says, let me see. The operator left me hanging for like 5 minutes. It seemed like an eternity. Finally, one of the air traffic controllers gets on the phone, and he was more excited than me. He said, did you see those 6 lights from each other hovering in a phone information at 8:30 last night? I said, yes, that's why I'm calling. He said, actually, there were 3 at 8 o'clock. I said, I saw those too. He got so excited that I saw him in the distance, and he confirmed. He says they just popped up over Class B restricted airspace. Nobody's supposed to be there, so we looked on radar. Nobody had contacted us. Nothing on radar. They took the high-powered binoculars to look. And in his own words, there were 6 points of light totally equidistant from each other, massive span, over a mile wide, that seemed to be attached to something. But they couldn't quite see what these lights were attached to, which you would hear from thousands of people 2 months later as well. Yeah. Or had a force field in between the lights, holding them in rock-solid formation. And he was also a meteorologist, which was lucky, because he said that the entire thing turned. It was over a mile wide. The entire thing turned as a unit against the wind. Significant. Yeah. Elevated slowly and moved in synchrony behind South Mountain. So I said, so what was it? And there was silence.
Yeah,
and then he says, beats me. I said, you're air traffic controller.
Yeah.
You're supposed to know it's in our airspace. You're a professional skywatcher, right? They ruled out every conventional aircraft, balloons, Chinese lanterns, flares, even skydivers with lights. They thought that might have been a possibility. True unknowns, according to air traffic controllers. We continued to keep in contact, and I continued photographing these strange lights in different formations up until and including March 13th. And here's where it really gets interesting. For me, it was just another night.
Sure.
Okay. And about 8:30, I see, and I went out to look for the Hale-Bopp comet, which was very clear in the northwest sky.
Yep.
Ironically, thousands of other people were also outside looking up at the sky at the same time, right? And anyway, about 8:30, I see some lights pop on, and I already had a lot in the can. Also interesting, a couple weeks before, my husband was getting really annoyed with me, running out every time. As a scientist, I felt compelled to photograph these things. And thank goodness. And, you know, he was getting a little annoyed that I was, because, oh, they're fire on the mountain. I mean, he was making every excuse, right? So this is how close I was. A friend of a friend had a neighbor who had a friend who knew the past president of MUFON, Mutual UFO Network, who I had never heard of before. And so I thought, okay, I just want somebody to look at the one picture that had turned out at the time from 95 and tell me what these new lights are at a distance. I call him up. He hadn't heard about it, but there were other people that were not only witnessing them like I was, but photographing them as well. In fact, one of them, Steve Blonder, called MUFON up to his balcony the night of March 13th, and they actually caught an arrowhead. There's only a handful of videos.
Yep.
They caught an arrowhead of 5 lights. Those lights are attached to something. All you have to do, I say, look at the data. It speaks for itself. His video and my video are before 10 o'clock. Okay. And anyway, so he refers me to a field investigator from MUFON the following week on Wednesday. On Tuesday, he calls up and says that the then state director wanted to be at that meeting, but his mom had passed on Saturday and the funeral was Wednesday. Could I postpone? It was like, oh, geez, I really want to find out what's going on, and I'm busy for another 2-3 weeks. The only opportunity, the only window was Friday morning, about 10 o'clock. He said, fine. I get there Friday morning, knock on his door. He opens the door. The first thing he says to me is, did you see the mass sighting last night? I saw something very similar to I told you about 2 months ago. In fact, I got video of it last night. He said, great, because NBC was coming to interview him in a half hour. I said, whoa. I said, first of all, I don't know what we're dealing with here. Is it military or a hoax or whatever? Yeah. But it's not about me. It's never been about me. It's about the data. So take a copy of the video, show people what we saw. I don't know what they are, but go for it if you are moved. Yeah. Share it. I said, by the way, I called the air traffic controllers this morning to verify. And they did, that it was the same exact phenomena over the same exact location, 1,000 feet altitude over Class B restricted airspace, and that a couple pilots called in. A commercial airline pilot on departure saying, what the hell are these lights over me, which is significant.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean, we're talking over the tarmac, okay? Yeah. And a private pilot, didn't mention names or anything, a private pilot who on close approach, called in to report them. And that private pilot just came forward in 2017, none other than actor Kurt Russell. Yeah. Okay. Which is amazing to me because he was reporting it while I was filming it, actually. But at any rate, he says, I said, look, I'm out of here. And I left, not knowing if the news was even going to report it. Okay. Yeah. I'm sitting in front of my TV with the VCR in those days, ready to see if anybody was going to even mention it. 4 o'clock, breaking news, my video on every news station. It was exciting. Yeah, yeah. You know, after seeing these things for a couple years and then having my own video up there for people to see what we saw, hey, I don't know what they are, but hey, it's there. Yeah. By 9 o'clock, a couple other videos came forward, and one of them was a boomerang, a big boomerang, which was really impressive. It was like, whoa, I mean, what's going on here? Didn't know what to do. I didn't want to get involved. I just wanted to find out what was going on. The following Tuesday, I'm watching the news, and it was news, okay, TV news. The newspaper, on the other hand, had it buried in like the D section or whatever. Yeah. But there was a reporter from one of the news stations who saw the craft, and he wanted to get to the bottom of it, and he did terrific news reports. So it kept up, and on Tuesday, the following Tuesday, from the Thursday, March 13th, I see my video again on the news, and they're interviewing a fella out in Tempe near the Arizona University, okay, Arizona State University, ASU, at a computer lab that was massive, who analyzed for like 20 years before the same exact phenomena from all over the world. I had no idea. He's showing these orbs in triangle formation that my husband and I saw from Belgium and Russia and UK, and it's like, whoa, this is happening worldwide? I had no idea. That sent me on a journey to find a logical explanation for what I witnessed and photographed, which I have yet to find 25 years later. Sure. Pushed my whole medical career aside and started writing a diary and researching anything I could read, anybody I could talk to, staying anonymous, which was very easy because even
I was going to ask, had you come out when you were a doctor?
No way. No way. I mean, at the time, there was so much ridicule and snickering and discrediting.
Oh, absolutely.
Village Labs and Jim Galatoso, because nobody knew he was analyzing my 35 millimeter They thought he was just analyzing video, which is very hard to do. And he had actually classified equipment that he was working on in his computer lab, okay, was analyzing my 35 millimeter, and he, among others, were so kind. Only a handful of people knew what I had. Okay, I really wanted to do my homework and have everything analyzed, which I have. I'm the only one with 35 millimeter. And went to the University of Arizona, the head of the opticals department, who's in the documentary. He became vice president of research at the University of Arizona, really took a great interest and actually had a briefing with some of the scientists there. And Brooks Institute of Photography. I really tried to find out what they were. And to date, no one can tell me they're true unknowns. They're in the negative. That's the beauty. Yeah. Okay? They can't be denied or explained. But at any rate, so here, I'm learning this is happening worldwide. And I started researching. And the more I looked, the more I found such incredible data. I had no idea about the history of these phenomena since human documentation began, Sumerian writings, and even the Bible, Ezekiel's wheel. And it was mind-blowing for me to see it. Long story short, gave my whole medical career aside for 4 years, had a 750-page journal 4 years later of such incredible data. I didn't know what to do. And meanwhile, Village Labs got such discredited that Jim lost a $2 million project with Hormel Foods, Hormel, to do a supercomputer, and lost Village Labs in the process. There's no way I was coming forward.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and that is something that we speak about regularly on our show is whether it's a paranormal experience, ghosts, UFOs, Bigfoot, things like that, you think you want that. You think you want that experience. Are you ready for the aftermath of that experience if you come out with that experience?
Well, if you come out, but even just having the experience.
Yeah, even just having
that's one of the reasons I came forward as a scientist, to try to be as scientific as I could with the data itself.
Yeah, because there's almost a victim mentality.
Well, that's the thing. As a physician,
you have seen this thing and you know what you saw.
Right.
But it's hard for you to come out and tell anybody what you saw because what you saw is so incredible even to you.
Exactly. And, first of all, most anomalies can be explained. Only a small percentage cannot. But when somebody has a paranormal experience, it's real to them. Yeah. And that was another reason I had to come forward as a physician to say, back up a minute. Yeah. You're not alone. Yeah. There's a lot of other people that have these experiences.
And that's just it. That's one of the things that we talk about regularly on this show is the fact of, whether it's UFOs, Bigfoot, crop circles, 80% may be fully explainable. 90%, 95%. But even yourself as a doctor, if somebody came to you and said, one day a month, these symptoms happen to me, would you call them crazy? Or would you say, let's explore that one day a month? I know that the other 29 days a month are perfect. They're fantastic. So what's your problem? Mm-hmm.
That's why I came forward, too.
That's
to say
the
to
mentality.
The person, you're not crazy.
Exactly.
But if you don't share it with one person, and I've been there gratis ever since I came forward in 2004, to say, just share it with one person. Send me an email. Message me on Facebook, Phoenix Lights Network, right? Yeah. It's cathartic. Yes. It's healing. Yeah. If you just share it with one person, okay, and try to make sense of it, right? Yeah. And also as an experiencer, I know how that feels, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and as an educator, you want to educate people so they know that they're not alone. They're not alone, and get the information out there. Anyway, so here I am, compiling 750 pages. Wow. Had to go back to work to help put our younger son through medical school. He's a neurologist now, and he's in the documentary. He had a couple sightings with us. Wow. Okay. And did his differential diagnosis and couldn't come up with anything, right? But at any rate, so I went to the Arizona Heart Institute. I was chief clinical consultant of the Wellness and Imaging Center, the heart tests, where you look at calcium in the arteries. And while I was in my little office in between patients, and nobody knew what I was doing, I was paring down that 750 pages to 230 pages of the most credible. Every word is there for a reason, okay? And finally, after much soul searching and also doing my homework
Yeah.
and finding out that, hey, nobody could tell me what I photographed. I'm the only one with 35 millimeter. How could I stick it in good conscience in a drawer as an educator?
Yeah.
Right? And finally, with much, I must say that it was not easy to come forward. It was scary at the time. But I thought, you know what? It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot more to the story that, I hope to share with you. People can decide for themselves.
Yeah.
It's the data. I told the story as it unfolded, which is very interesting, which I want to get to now.
Yeah.
But, I came forward in 2004, and I was amazed that people actually read it and appreciated the work that went into it. Because originally I was just going to get the data out there.
Yeah.
And then I thought, you know what? I'm just going to let it all hang out. There's a lot more to the story. A lot of paranormal stuff happened after the mass sighting, which I go into. Also, I'm going to share another interesting aspect that I go into. But I had more doctors and nurses from the Arizona Heart Institute pull me aside and say, I am so happy you did this. Because I had an experience when I was 7 years old on the beach, and there was a UFO right above. I mean, I couldn't believe how many people not only appreciated it, but it helped them transform to a good place. Just telling the story as it unfolded, which was interesting because there was no investigation. After 1,000, we're talking between 10 and 20,000 people. They were outside looking up at the sky at the Hale-Bopp comet. Whoever did this knew that, obviously, and wanted to be seen. Right?
Yeah.
Whoever did it, and I don't know who did it. I always say I don't know. That's not the point. It's time we get this out in the open and address it, accept it, and study it, so we can find out not only who's driving these things, but move forward in our own evolution.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, precisely.
And anyway, as the story unfolded, it was uncanny. There was no investigation, no explanation. I mean, the officials government officials were asked what happened. Oh, something happened on March 13th. Until May, when Phoenix Councilwoman Vice Mayor Frances Barwood, God bless her, at a council meeting, she didn't see it, but she had over 1,000 of her constituents asking her why there isn't an investigation. Because we're talking on March 13th, just to go back there for a second.
Flew over our town.
Not only, there is so much mis and disinformation. That's another reason I came forward, because it wasn't one or two events. Yes, the media just focused on the 8 to 10, because that's when most people were outside and most people called the news stations or whatever. But the actual mass sighting itself, and most people don't know this, started 3 p.m. in the afternoon. Daylight sightings of these craft, 5:30, and it wasn't just one craft. There was 10 different craft. I mean, it's mind-boggling, the data that we know now, 25 years later. 5 o'clock hour in New Mexico, Native Americans reported them in New Mexico. 7 o'clock hour and beyond in California. 10 o'clock hour, there were 2 commercial airline pilots that reported a massive craft over a mile wide covering Las Vegas.
Yep.
And it continued all the way until 5:30 the next morning, when a Boeing crew was coming into Sky Harbor International Airport, and one of these mile-wide craft was over their tarmac. Another interesting aside is at 3 a.m. that next morning, the director of the National UFO Reporting Center, Peter Davenport, got a phone call, very professional, from an alleged crewman from Luke Air Force Base. Part of his conversation is in our documentary. Okay, very detailed. That jets were sent out from Luke Air Force Base to intercept and get gun camera film of one of these mile-wide craft that was hovering over central Phoenix as they got closer. And we're talking technology here that we haven't seen in 25 years. The lights dimmed, and then the entire thing blinked out and disappeared, and freaked one of the pilots out that this alleged crewman had to help him out of his aircraft.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
And then Luke, according to him, went on lockdown for the rest of the night. Just recently, I had the weather girl that was on that night contact me and say that she, and Luke denied they got calls, that she got calls herself. Right, and a lot of people got the number from the National UFO Reporting Center from the Air Force Base, but she said that she was getting so many calls that she went outside to look, and she saw it too.
Wow.
Okay, so the military was well aware.
Yeah.
Of what, and this was 8:30 of what was going on. So we're talking over a dozen hours, 4 states Okay.
Incredible.
4 states. And the technology itself, some people saw these orbs detach from the main object, go
Yep.
out into the environment and redock with it. Others saw, if you go to the GAP page, GAP, Geospatial Animation Project, on the Phoenix Lights Network website, you will see a 12-year study, meticulous study of hundreds of reports. 2 or more people had to see the same craft. There were 10 different crafts.
Wow.
Not only were there multiple things happening, now whether it was one craft that could morph, or the perspective from where the person was standing,
Yeah.
or a parade. And ultimately, that's what the investigators concluded, because there were so many things happening, orb formations, different craft, different states. I mean, it was a parade.
Yeah.
Okay? And one of the craft, if you look at the craft, they really look different. Okay? They really do.
Yeah.
And one of the crafts split in half and straight up. And we're talking gliding, rooftop level. Some people said they could, it was so close they could have thrown a rock at it.
Yeah.
Gliding right over their heads. And then taking off at blink speed, totally silent without even dispersing the air.
Yeah.
I mean, have we seen any of this technology yet?
Yeah, but
Okay.
not quite.
And you would think if we did have this technology, everything that's going on in the world, that we would have showed it to, show our prowess as
Yeah.
technologically advanced. At any rate, as the story, Francis Barwood got plastered in May. I was so happy I stayed anonymous. And then we go to June 18th. This was a turning point.
Yep.
Because for the first time, front page USA Today article.
I remember the article. I was telling my wife yesterday during your presentation that I read that article and watched the news conference at an IHOP in Phoenix. I was in town for my
Wow.
friend's wedding.
Okay.
And I remember telling my friends that, like, the sighting had just happened.
Exactly.
Because they were like, what's this article all about? And I was telling them about it. And they were like, are you serious? And then on the TV, the press conference came
Oh,
on.
wow. I can't believe you
And
saw
it was like, wow.
Yeah,
wow.
Because this was the first time that people they kept it such a lid on it, that for the first time, people outside of Arizona
Yeah.
were hearing about the sighting, and we did not have social media at the time.
Yep.
And yet, overnight, I wake up in the morning, it's on every national news station. Okay, Peter Jennings,
Yep.
Dan Rather, you name it. And we were deluged by media from all over the world. And once they started talking to the witnesses themselves, their stories were so detailed and so heartfelt that they too were saying, why isn't there an investigation?
Yeah.
Why isn't there an explanation? Late morning, that very next morning, June 19th, we get a public announcement that former Governor Fife Symington was holding an unscheduled press conference for that afternoon to reveal the culprit of the lights over Phoenix.
Yeah.
And people took it seriously.
Yep.
Okay? There was press there. There were parents there. There were other witnesses. He comes marching out, one of his aides, with a giant alien head costume.
Yeah. with
Making
the
a
long
mockery.
fingers
Yeah.
and-
Making a mockery. And let me tell you something. It wasn't a joke. For
Yeah.
the people that saw it, parents were really disconcerted. I mean, here they're with their kids during the mass sighting. They see something that's 3 and 4 malls wide,
Yeah.
and he's making a joke out of it. Okay. And what he said is that people were panicking. No. There is not one.
No,
not
they
one
were
credible
extraordinarily
report.
curious.
Exactly. And that's the interesting part, which I want to get to, is
Yeah.
real time and long term, how it affected the witnesses themselves.
Mm.
But there wasn't one report, not one credible report to date that I have gotten or know of harm, threat, or abduction associated with the Phoenix Lights phenomenon. I can't speak about other things, but I can about the Phoenix Lights.
Yeah.
And yet he's saying, no, the government and military were panicked. I guarantee, because the USA Today article, now it was out of the bag, right? Okay, what were they going to do? In the meantime, I did not take it as a joke either, okay? And I called every military base, and we have quite a few in Arizona, getting as high up as I could, and asking them what was going on. Did they know anything? And not telling them any details about what I documented, but that I had seen them and documented them on film. They wanted to meet with me. I said, no, thank you.
Yeah.
I just went curious. And the answers I got back, they were just as curious as we were. I had one of them tell me, the only people that know who did this is God and the person that did it. I mean, they had no idea.
Yeah.
Then I get a call from one of the heads of the PR at the Air National Guard. And she says, oh, Dr. Lynne, I think we know what those lights were back in March. And I was thrilled, to be honest with you, because
Sure.
I was looking for a logical explanation, thinking there must be one, right? She says, do you believe in all these months, no one ever looked at the log for visiting Air National Guard, and the Maryland Air National Guard was in town sending off military illumination flares in Operation Snowbird, which most people in Arizona, we call the people that come from out of town during the winter snowbirds, so people took it as that. No. In military terms, it means diversionary tactical maneuvers, right? And they were well aware of what was going on. So whether they did send off flares or not, I don't know. But I have not met one person that saw the characteristics of flares, because I said to her, wait a minute, when was the Maryland Air National Guard in town? She says March 1st to the 15th. I said, were they in town in January? She said, oh, no. I said, absolutely not. I said, are you sure? She said, no, absolutely not. I said, well, my husband and I saw the same exact phenomenon in the same exact location 2 months before the mass sighting. I did get pictures of it and conferred with the air traffic controllers who confirmed that they were over Class B restricted airspace, 1,000 feet altitude. That was the first time I told her details. She said, you never told me that. I said, besides, you're trying to tell me that flares, and I had educated myself to that drift and drop with the wind, have huge smoke trails that are illuminated by the flare itself and illuminate the area around it. Anyone that saw the new movie Top Gun, I was so excited when they were setting off flares so people could see. They're heat-seeking, so the missiles will go to them instead of the planes, right? Yeah. And they move around, and they drop and drift and all that. I said, and you're trying to tell me that flares that cannot keep a formation for less than a couple seconds of that drift haphazardly down to the traverse the entire state in a rock solid, equidistantly spaced, mile wide V for hours? And she says, I have a call coming in. I'll get back to you. I'm still waiting.
I'll bet.
Okay.
So at what point did you decide to start making the Phoenix Lights documentary?
Well, that's another story, because as a story, and I'll make it real short, as a story progressed, okay, after 3 years after the mass sighting, okay, Frances Barr was running for Secretary of State. This is really a significant part of the story, because she was asking for a reenactment, which was brilliant. Okay, shame on them for going right over people's heads if it was military and then denying it. But show me. I'm a show me person, right? Yeah. Well, right before the 3rd anniversary, they announced publicly that 3 Air National Guards were coming into town to send off military illumination flares to show everybody the Phoenix Lights, and it was a dire failure. If you go on the news page and scroll down a little bit, you'll see our AZ family, they shot what they did. They tried to make a triangle. It was upside down. It fell apart immediately. I'd used just what flares do. Yeah. That really put the nail in the coffin for the flare theory once and for all. Yeah. And not only have the Phoenix Lights never been recreated, they never addressed the craft that people saw, ever, to this day. Right after the 10th anniversary, the former governor, who made the joke, in the press conference, came forward, for whatever reason, to disclose that he actually witnessed one of the craft, and he was an awarded military pilot, and said that it definitely wasn't flares, and in his estimation, it was otherworldly. That's the same word that's used worldwide by other countries who are much more open to these phenomena. Yeah. Otherworldly. Okay. So that's there's a lot more to the story, including the fact that number of witnesses had near-death experiences as children that was reawakened by the mass sighting, and I did too. And I thought, whoa, could there be a connection? And if you get the book, there's half the book's about this. Not only, and after I did my homework, near-death experience, out-of-body experience, unexplained aerial phenomena with a mystical light associated with it. Yeah. Changes the person forever. Okay? Not only is the experience very similar, but the after effect, the awakening, the connectiveness to everything is felt for the first time in a person. I start calling them an up. And there's a lot more to the story. And right now, I invite your audience, please, to go to the Phoenix Lights Network website, the landing page. There's this triangle on there. Right underneath that is a link. We just announced it here at the MUFON International Symposium, a study. Anybody that's heard about the Phoenix Lights, and now you have audience, whether you're a witness or not, we want to know how it affected you in real time and long term. Because people changed forever that saw the Phoenix Lights. Absolutely. They went into the peace movement, environmental movement, stopped eating meat. Their lives were changed. They woke up to the fact that we're not alone. Yeah. And I also invite you to you asked me about the documentary, and actually, when I came forward, I was inundated by filmmakers, and I didn't have time, and I didn't know if I could even do it. One of them was from Books into Photography. We knew his daddy was a doctor. He said, I'll bring in my equipment. We started filming, and I didn't even know what the people would do it. And everybody said they would, even professors that could lose their grants. And long story short, I had to make a choice.
Yep.
I left to finish the documentary. We won over a dozen international film festival awards.
Yes.
It really coordinates with the book. So if you have Amazon Prime, you can get it for free. I recommend the ebook. Okay, has colored pictures and live links, so people can go off and explore. And I also have a graphic novel activities coloring book.
Yes, I saw that.
For all ages, so we can have the whole family and teachers as well get involved. And it's really comprehensive, 160 pages. So there's a lot to this story, and whether you believe in anything or not, for people that have had the experience, it's more of a knowing. Okay, and I just invite people to take a peek.
Absolutely.
And, with an open mind and an open heart, decide for yourself.
Yeah. And
the data is there.
Well, and that's just it. That's a lot of what we talk about on this show is, opening hearts, opening minds to the conversation. That is what this country was founded on. I don't personally care what you believe, but I'd like to know why you believe it.
Exactly.
And I would like to just leave it at that. It just lets me know you as a human being better.
Right.
And that's how we explore humanity. That's how we grow as humanity. If we didn't have open minds and open hearts, we'd probably still have, a lot of science that does not exist.
And that's a choice.
Yeah.
Because everybody comes from a different background, different upbringing, different belief system, different worldview. Yeah. Some people can't deal with this topic. Some people don't want to. Yep. And that's okay. That's okay. Everyone in their own time. If they want to feed into the flare theory, so be it. But you know what? Now there's data. Yeah. And again, I invite people to go to the Phoenix Lights Network website. It is packed with data.
The real point is, look at data as just that. Data. Look at it dispassionately. Do not get your emotions involved. Do not get your convictions involved. Just look at the data.
But you may get involved, and that's what we want to find out from the survey.
The data may just change you.
Because I've had more people tell me who didn't see the Phoenix Lights that they changed their life forever. So we'd like to hear from your audience, and it's a really fun survey, and it's all confidential and anonymous. Once somebody goes into the survey, all their identity is lost. Their name, their even their computer data, whatever. Well,
let everybody know, once again, where they can go to participate in that survey, where they can go to share their story of the Phoenix Lights, and where they can go to buy their copy of the Phoenix Lights as well as the documentary.
Right. They're all available on Amazon. And if you go to the Phoenix Lights Network website, just Google Phoenix Lights Network. It'll come up usually first or second. And then, again, on the landing page is the link to the survey. On the home page at the very top, it says if you would like to contact Dr. Lynne privately. I'm a physician. I take confidentiality very seriously. It will go nowhere but into my email privately. And there's so much more there. And right underneath are the books, the Phoenix Lights, A Skeptic's Discovery, We Are Not Alone, the graphic novel, The Adventures of Sue F.O., Field Observer, and Hugh, H-U-G-H, he's a little alien.
Okay.
UFO, and it's really fun. I mean, it is packed also. That's packed, and then the documentary as well. And if you have Amazon Prime, you can watch it for free.
Well, I want to thank you so much for your time today.
My
I know
pleasure.
that everybody's schedule is packed here at this MUFON Symposium, from the speakers to the presenters to even just the authors.
Well, it's a pleasure, and that's why I'm here, to get the information out there and let people decide for themselves.
Our audience is your audience, and we'd like to have you on again and again, Doctor.
Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Please do hold on just a moment. Make sure to stop on by the PhoenixLightsNetwork.com website while you're
.net.
Or .net.
ThePhoenixLights.net.
ThePhoenixLights.net, folks. And while you're online checking that out, make sure to stop on by CuriousRealm.com. Make sure to follow us on social media. We will be right back with more continuing coverage of MUFON Symposium 2022 here in Denver, Colorado, right after this.